لله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات ربي وسلامه وبركاته عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We talked about the hadith of Fatima binti Qais as we continue Bulugh al-Maram on the date of, what's today? January the what, everyone? January the 29th on the Gregorian calendar after Dhuhr on Sunday, which is January the 29th, which is 1:30, 2017, the Gregorian calendar. As far as the Hijri calendar, when was today, everyone? It's not Jumad al-Awwal. Is Jumad al-Awwal? It's Rabi' al-Thani, right? The second Rabi' What is it? No, in the Hijri calendar. Jumad al-Awwal? Wow. It is the second Jumad al-Awwal. Subhanallah. Wow. On the 2nd of Jumad al-Awwal, 1438 of the Hijrah of Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Wow, time is flying. Jumad al-Awwal, Ramadan is almost back again. Jumad al-Awwal, which is the 14 on the Hijri calendar, the 14 or 1438 at the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. We continue in the lesson Bulugh al-Maram by the great Imam al-Hafidh Ahmad Ali ibn Shihab al-Hajr al-Asqalani rahimahullah rahmatu wasi'ah. We finished the hadith as we continue the chapter of nikah in regards to marriage. However, we continue where we left off in the chapter of what they call Bab al-Kafa'a wal-Khiyar, the chapter of adequacy and alternative in marriage. We were speaking about the hadith and we concluded the narration you'll find in your books. For everyone, I hope that they brought their books and their PDFs. If you look in your book, you'll find the narration which is muttafaqun alayh, which is Bukhari and Muslim in the Sahihain, where it says that the Prophet ﷺ had gave the suggestion to Fatima bint Qais, which he said to her, Fankihi Usama ibn Zayd. We said there was a lot of benefits that was extracted from that narration. From them is that the Prophet ﷺ advised Fatima bint Qais. You will find that these narrations is a narration that lays the foundation of the correct methodology of Ahl Sunnah in criticizing the narrators, or likewise, for example, switching or changing of nasiha or ghiba, what people would think is backbiting, and in certain places it switches into advice. Based upon that narration, you'll find in your books. You'll find how ghiba, or backbiting, as we know, is a major sin. It is from the kaba'ir al-dhunub, is to backbite. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns that in so many different ayat, as we already mentioned. And we know the Prophet ﷺ mentioned another authentic narration, which Imam al-Albani also declared to be authentic, where he said, "Min arba riba al-istitala fi irdi akhihi al-Muslim." وكما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, where he said that the most highest forms of riba, we know riba is tremendous. We know that the least of it is like one having or being intimate with his own mother. The least of riba. We know those narrations that talks about how riba is tremendous, where Allah Ta'ala says that He's going to make war, and His messenger are going to make war with you. There's tremendous narrations in which one has to realize, and we can see in society, in the economy, the perils of riba, how it causes a major imbalance in the economy, where it oppresses the poor and exploits them, and it makes the rich more rich. That's the reason why you'll find in the perfect, complete religion in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down this truth from the heavens, has condemned this matter and said it's from the major sins. But notice in the narration the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he said, the most highest forms of riba, min arba riba, most greatest forms of riba, is to speak and condemn the honor of your brother Muslim. So, based upon those narrations, the asl of ghiba is tremendous, we know, no doubt. But likewise, we know in certain places, ghiba can switch into nasiha. The ghiba, or backbiting, can switch into advice. And it's not considered qadh, it's not considered ridiculement or belittlement or disparagement of someone. For example, this hadith here, if you look in your books, we talked about the Prophet ﷺ was consulted by Fatima bint Qais radiyallahu anha ardaha. What happened in the narration? She said, "Khatabani Muawiyah wa Abu Jahm." The whole narration isn't in your books. It's just one part of the hadith. It's just one part of the hadith. It just says, "Marry Usama bin Zayd." That's only one part of another narration. Or the other part is that "Khatabani Muawiyah wa Abu Jahm." فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال لها أما معاوية فالصعلوك لا مال له وأما أبو جهم فلا يضع العصا عن عاتقه فانكحي أسامة بن زيد. To the end of the narration. The narration says, if you look in your books, it's not in your books, but the other part, he says that Abu Jahm bil mim, not Abu Jahl, Abu Jahm or Muawiyah, they have sought my hand in marriage, or basically they have came to me and approached me in order to marry me. So notice that she asked the Prophet ﷺ for his advice on who she should marry. Listen to what the Prophet ﷺ said. He says, "Ask for Muawiyah for su'luk la mala lahu." He said he's poor, he doesn't have money to take care of you. Does not have money to take care of you. As for Abu Jahm, then he does not leave the stick off of his shoulder. When the Prophet ﷺ said this, what he meant by it is that he strikes or hits his women, or he beats his woman. She said, in the end, marry Usama bin Zayd. So based upon this narration, we would think the Prophet ﷺ was backbiting someone. La. Rather, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was what? He was advising her. These are from the narrations to show how backbiting, of what appears as if it's backbiting, when in actuality it isn't, switches into advice. And like we said, these affairs are very detrimental and very needed within society on a daily basis, whether you want to hire someone, or whether you want to know someone's hand in marriage, or whether you want to know about an individual who's coming in order to seek marriage, and you want to know his character, you want to know how he is, and you want someone to be honest with you, to know who is this individual, and you want them to give you the honest truth about him, so he could be warded, so one could save his brother from falling into an evil, if that's the case. Or for example, a person might be walking into or dealings with someone who he shouldn't be dealing with, and you will want someone to give you that heads up or to warn you, so an evil can be avoided, so you don't fall into something that you would regret later, and then your brother would say in the end, for example, oh, I knew he was already a kleptomaniac. I already knew that. Why didn't you say anything? Well, I already knew that he domestically abuses his wives. I already knew that. Well, why didn't you say anything? Oh, I don't want to fall into backbiting. You understand, everyone? So that backbiting is not backbiting in its proper place. That's considered advice. And the example of that is here in this hadith. We concluded and mentioned and said from last week that Ahl Ilm, as Imam Nawawi mentions in his poetry, he says, القدح ليس بغيبة في ستة متظلما ومعرف ومحذر ومجاهد فسقا ومستفت ومن طلب الإعانة في إزالة منكر. You'll find Imam Nawawi says that advice switches into backbiting switches into advice in six places. He says القدح ليس بغيبة في ستة, that ridiculement is not backbiting in 6 places. He says متظلما ومعرف ومحذر. He says mutadhallim, one who's fell into being oppressed. And then they complain to the one who wants to remove the oppression off of them, or the one that can consult them and give him advice about the matter. So that's number 1. So the person who's being oppressed will go to a person, either the judge, or he might go to a person he can consult with how to deal with the matter, and he might say something about the person that it's apparent that it might be riba, but it's not. So he might say something, so-and-so did this to me, what do I do? So-and-so did this to me, what do I do? Or he goes to the judge or have you and say something in order to what? Have that oppression removed. So that's the first place, what they call mutadhalliman wa muhadharin wa mu'arrafin wa muhadharin. The second place Imam Nawawi mentions, it says mu'arraf. Mu'arraf is when you want to know someone, who he is. Who is this person? Who's this person? Who is he? And you try to seek and ask about the person's state. For example, you want to hire someone for a job. Or, for example, one comes to you and he might want to do some business ventures with you. Or he wants to do some trade or some business or what have you. And you don't know who he is. You don't know how his dealings are. Is he an upright person? Is he truthful? Is he veracious? Is his dealings on point? Is he good at what he does? Some people might have certain things or certain aspects, but they're not good at it. That's not their thing. So you want to know this, so you ask around about the individual, about this person, and say, who is he? What is his character? How is he? How's his dealings? Is he truthful? Is he a person that lies? Is he a person that's truthful? Is he good at what he does? To the end of it. So here, a person, when you ask and inquiring about his condition, then it's incumbent upon the person to tell the reality of who he is and what is his state. So likewise, you have mu'arrafin wa muhadharin. So then Imam Nawawi goes on to say in the poetry, muhadharin, warning against someone. For warning against someone, as we know, that in certain cases, a person can be warned against, no doubt, in order for the people to be cautious of his evil and not to be harmed by his evil. Whether a person, for example, be a kleptomaniac, you bring him in his house and he steals and he's sticky fingers, it's incumbent upon you to what? Tell the person, be careful, so-and-so, he's known for this and he's known to do these acts with a lot of people. So this type of tahdhir is in its place. Or, for example, warning against the people of innovations, which is the most greatest of tahdhir, the most greatest of jihad, or forms of jihad, that the Ahl Ilm, the people of knowledge, that they carry out, and the students of knowledge, where they warn against the people of desires and they warn against the people of innovations. Because they are the people who are the callers of the hellfire and the callers of the gates of hell, which the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned that hadith, where he mentioned the hadith of Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, where he said, دعاة على أبواب جهنم من أجابهم إليها قذفوه فيها. The Prophet ﷺ had mentioned and said, there will be callers on the gates of the hell. Whoever calls or answers their call, they will cast him. They will cast him into it. So those callers, who the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned that there will be in times of fitna, of course, how will one know who they are if no one says anything about them? Everybody remains quiet. Nobody tells, nobody enlightens, nobody teaches, nobody speaks who they are. Everyone just remains silent. How can one know who they are? So that's the reason why you'll find that from Ahl Sunnah and the Salafiyyin, who they specify who the people of desires are and say their names. And you'll find that from Ahl Ilm, you'll find the books and the sciences of Jarh al-Ta'dil, which is a science in which Ahl Ilm came in order for the religion to remain preserved and in its purest form. You'll find books that we know of, which are encyclopedias of narrators, the chains or the narrators in which they related the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ. And you'll find that they mention and say so-and-so is reliable, so-and-so is a liar, so-and-so he has some weakness in his memory, so-and-so was Rafidi, so-and-so was Mu'tazili, so-and-so was upon the Aqeedah of the I'tizal, or he was Jahmi, or he was Rafidi, or he was Sunni, or he was a person firm upon the Sunnah, he was Imam Ahlul Sunnah. You'll find books and encyclopedias of this. You'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved this religion by this science, what they call praising and criticizing the narrators. Because you'll find that every narrator that related a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we have his history, and we know his grade, and we know where he's born, and we know how his narrations are, and they've been tested to let us know how Allah Ta'ala preserved the religion based upon criticizing different narrators. You'll find people will go on to say, how can you criticize a narrator? And this is considered backbiting. If that was the case, then we say, for example, Imam Ahmad fell into backbiting, Imam Bukhari fell into backbiting, Imam Muslim fell into backbiting, Abdullah ibn Mubarak fell into backbiting, Sufyan ibn Uyayna fell into backbiting, Sufyan al-Thawri fell into backbiting, Abdurrahman ibn Abd al-Awza'i, Imam al-Awza'i fell into backbiting, Imam Malik fell into backbiting, Imam Shafi'i fell into backbiting. We say that none of them fell into backbiting. Rather, all what they did was advice to the ummah so the religion can remain preserved in its most pure state. You'll find he criticized those narrators, or all these ai''mmah, clarifying what's their state and what's their condition, whether or not they're reliable. Because you'll find that Allah Ta'ala promised in the final revelation that this religion was going to be preserved by anyone changing it. So in order for those people who are evil to try to come and change and alter the religion, just as what happened to the previous religions in the past, from Christianity to Judaism, were altered and changed because evil people intended to corrupt it, and that's what happened. However, it was carried out what happened in the past with those nations, those previous legislations. They were all corrupted by the alterations of man and the corruption of man. Excuse me 1 second. Close that door. Lock it. Lock it. Go to that sister side, lock it. Lock the door. Listen, it's not time to play. Go lock the sister side. طيب. What was I saying? No. In regards to the alterations of what happened with the Christians and the Jews and their religion, as we know that it's been corrupted, it's been changed, and it's been altered by man. Due to the fact that all the narrators and the science of them have been lost. Nobody has encyclopedias of any narrators, rather narrators themselves are gone. So nobody knows whether or not those narrations of which they read are authentic or not. They don't know it's actual what? Pure, authentic narrations. You'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved this religion by whatever happened to those previous nations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent down the revelation, and also it came along with it a methodology for the preservation of the religion, which is called jarh ta'dil, which is called praising of the narrators and knowing who they are, and criticizing the narrators and knowing who they are. By that science, the religion was preserved. To this day, it's still in its purest tact form, in its most purest form, based upon this science. Like we said, every narrator hadith, we know his grade, we know whether he was reliable in his narrations. His narrations was tested and compared to other narrators, which was a very keen, accurate, very in-depth, very, precise, having precision and acumen in their narrations. That every single narration that they related was what? Tested and investigated and scrutinized. This science that we said, you'll find that Ahl Ilm, based upon this narration in your book, in Bulugh al-Maram, this narration and the likes of it, they extracted from it, criticizing the narrators. Because if this is in, you'll find that Ahl Ilm, listen to the fiqh that they have, if this isn't just in mere daily dealings. For example, if you look in your books, in Bulugh al-Maram, this is just a fiqh pertaining to what? Marriage. Right, everyone? This is just pertaining to marriage. That a person tells who's the state of a person, who he is, does he have good dealings with his wife? What about the affairs which are the most sacred, which is pertaining to the preservation of the people's belief system, which is even more sacred, and it's even more on a whole different magnitude. Rather, you'll find in that state, it's even more incumbent upon to clarify who a person is when he speaks some type of knowledge about the religion or speaks a hadith upon the Prophet ﷺ. Narrating the message upon the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is tremendous because that's the religion. So here you'll find Ahl Ilm came in order to what? Check and investigate and scrutinize the narrators and the chains in order to know what? Whether or not that person actually narrated something that was authentically reported upon the Prophet ﷺ. Two types of jarh ta'dil, it breaks down. Of course, we know all the narrators, number one, have been gathered. We have the books and we have the grades of the narrators, and it's still preserved. Some people will try to come and throw a shubha. They'll probably try to come and point out ambiguity. They will say, for example, the days of jarh ta'dil are over. The days of jarh ta'dil is over. They'll try to say that. We don't need for anyone to criticize any narrators or criticize because all the books have been gathered. All the books in the science of jarh ta'dil, we have plenty of encyclopedias to know who the narrators are. So for that reason, there's no need for it in these days and times. Because all the books have been what? All the books have been gathered, all the narrations have been gathered. Walillahi alhamd, we have them. You don't need to criticize anymore these different people. As you'll find, Shaykh Abdullah al-Bukhari, hafidhullah, when he answered this ambiguity by saying, he says, number one, jarh ta'dil breaks down to two categories. Number one, you have what they call, he says, the science of what they call ilm al-riwaya, the knowledge of narrators, of narration, or the narrators that come and report those narrations of the Prophet ﷺ. That's number one. The ilm al-riwaya. The ilm al-riwaya. Al-riwaya is when you check, or the narrators that narrated all these narrations that you find in your books of the Prophet ﷺ. All these in these books that you see, there's a chain behind it. There's a chain behind it. There's a chain of narrators. حدثنا فلان, حدثنا فلان, حدثنا فلان. So and so said, so and so said, so and so said, so and so. To the end, they related upon the Sahabi. All those chains have been checked. Every single last one of them. We have encyclopedias for it. We have encyclopedia of every narrator that narrated it. And we have his history, and we have his date, we have his level of memory, we have his memory of how his narrations were compared to other narrators who's known to be trustworthy narrators, and comparing his narration to them and scrutinizing it. All that has been put in books in order for preservation of this religion. طيب. So the first category is the narrators of al-riwaya. Al-riwaya. Ilm al-riwaya. Some of Ahl Ilm say that those days are over. Some of them. And some of them say it isn't. Or some of them say it is, that it still will continue all the way up to the day of resurrection. In which you'll find that majority of Ahl Ilm, such as Imam Rabi' and likewise Sheikh Salih Fawzan, Ibn Uthaymeen, mentions it says that those narrators, or the narration, or the category, what they call ilm al-riwaya, it still continues to these days and times. Some of Ahl Ilm do say it's over. They said, alhamdulillah, we have all the books, they've been gathered. Those days are over. Then you have the second category, which is called ilm al-diyana. Ilm al-diyana. Ilm al-diyana is the knowledge of the deviant sex. The deviant sex. Criticizing and speaking about the meaning of the deviant sex. Ad-diyana. The ilm al-diyana, criticizing the deviant sex, will never stop. You'll find that Ahl Ilm say about that category, criticizing of the deviant sex will always continue all the way up to the day of resurrection. It will never stop. Ahl Ilm, the Tulab al-Ilm, will never cease to criticize the narrators, or criticize the deviant sex, criticize the deviant sex, and enlightening people and clarifying the false notions and ideologies and beliefs of those who deviated from the companions or the understanding of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. That will always continue and never stop. It will never cease. That type of jarh wa ta'dil, or that science, will always continue and never stop. Also, likewise, jarh wa ta'dil is applied in our daily lives. Every day, for example, people asking who a person is in marriage, for example, and you want to know who he is. For example, in jobs, and for example, different dealings and general dealings amongst the people. This is used every day. Rather, it's needed, so people can know who am I dealing with? Who's the person who I am marrying off to? Who's the person who I'm doing business with? All these things are used on a daily basis, constantly. No one's going to say, for example, now they try to use, for example, some principle. Now I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to backbite my brother, or I want to backbite so and so. The person would say, yeah, backbiting here is not applied. Here you're speaking to know who a person. I want to know who a person is, so you can try to maybe avoid me from falling into an evil, if one is able. Person, like we said, do not want to come in the end of a situation and say, oh, I already knew that, but I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to fall in the backbiter. You understand, everyone? Doesn't make sense. طيب. So based upon this hadith and other narrations, you'll find that Ahl Ilm extracted all these benefits that I just mentioned, every single last one of them. That the Prophet ﷺ said, فَانْكِحِي Usama bin Zayd, marry Usama bin Zayd. From the whole point of why this narration was put in the chapter, why was it put in the chapter, everyone? Notice the chapter is speaking about adequacy and alternative in marriage. If you look in your book, it's talking about adequacy and what? An alternative in marriage. If you look in your books, right? طيب. Look at the hadith we've been going over that is da'if, as Abu Hatim al-Razi rahimahullah said that the hadith is weak. The narration where it says, he says, أن العرب أكفى بعضهم بعضا وكذلك الموالي أكفاء بعضهم بعضا إلا حائك أو حجام, to the end of the narration. You'll find that it says that the Arab, they are they suffice, or they're adequate of one another, meaning that the Arab only marry an Arab. And it says in the narration, we've been over this for the past 2 weeks, you guys, we should be flying past this now. Anyway, it says, وَالْعَرَبْ أَكْفَاءُ بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا وَالْمَوَالِي أَكْفَاءُ بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا. He says that the freed slaves suffice or are adequate one another. That hadith we said, to the end of the narration, we said Abu Hatim al-Razi said the hadith is what? Da'if. If you notice it says, except a hajjam or ha'ik, meaning it's not befitting that a woman marry a man who has those type of what? That type of employment or that type of work. That he should not, or it's not befitting, rather it's kind of a demeaning or this praiseworthy thing if a man was to marry a man and he has that type of employment. We said that narration is da'if, because you'll find al-Hafid ibn Hajar that he put in his book, that narration. Right, everyone? And then after that, you'll find that he brings the narrations that goes against that one to show how it is weak. For example, he brought that hadith that's weak. Then after that, he brought other narrations underneath it to establish how that narration is weak. For example, this hadith of Usama bin Zayd, when the Prophet ﷺ said to Fatima bint Qais to marry Usama. How does this hadith now show that the other one is weak? Why? Because Fatima bint Qais was the Arab. She was from the purest lineages of the Arabs, of the Arab. She was from the purest of lineage. Rather, her lineage was of Quraysh, which is from the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, which was one of the most purest forms of the Arab and the most highest of status as far as the different lineages of the Arab. That was the most highest and the most purest. And despite of that, she married someone who was less of, and as far as in the lineage, was a little bit less. Which is to show that what? It's permissible. And also on top of that, number 2, Usama bin Zayd was a freed slave. He was a slave and he was a free slave. He was a slave at one time and he was what? Freed. He was liberated. So it's to show that how a woman from the Arab can marry a man who's non-Arab, and likewise a woman who's free can marry a man who was a free slave. He was a free slave. So notice al-Hafid ibn Hajar narrated or brought this narration in order to what? To show how the other one before it is weak. How it is weak and is munkar, or that the actual text, you'll find that the narrators of hadith or the ulama of hadith mention and say that it's munkar. Munkar meaning that the narration, that particular narration, opposes the authentic ones. The other ones that are firmly authentic and established in the sunnah. That's why you'll find in the narration it says, what did it say? That it's munkar. The hadith is what? Is munkar. When you say munkar, meaning that narration opposes the authentic ones that have been firmly established and firmly authentic. So one from those ahadith is this hadith of Usama bin Zayd. That narration is authentic without any type of without any type of discrepancy in its authenticity. It's in Bukhari and Muslim. It's in the Sahihain. And the Prophet ﷺ, like we said, told her to marry someone who was less in her lineage, and on top of that, he was a free slave. Rather, not only Usama bin Zayd was a free slave, rather Usama bin Zayd was the closest of those to the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet ﷺ described Usama as being Hibbu Rasulillah. He called him Hib Rasulillah ﷺ. He was described as someone who the Messenger of Allah ﷺ dearly loved, and he was what? Beloved and very close to the Prophet ﷺ. طيب. The next narration you'll find, if you look in your books, before we get to the next one, from the benefits of the hadith is that أنه يجوز للحرة أن تنكح المولى. It's permissible for a woman who's freed or liberated to marry a person تنكح المولى, a freed slave. The Prophet ﷺ gave the advice, even though she was liberated, even though she was free, and she was from the Qaba'il al-Arab. Listen to, this is Ibn Uthaymeen saying this, Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah. He said, وهي حرة من قبائل العرب أن تتزوج أسامة بن زيد وهو من الموالي. وهذا مما يدل على أن الحديث الأول منكر كما قال أبو حاتم الرازي لأنه خالف الأحاديث الصحيحة. He said that the Prophet ﷺ had given her that advice when she sought his advice, even though she's free. And also her being from the tribes of the Arab, to marry Usama bin Zayd, even though he was from the freed slaves. Which is an indication that the hadith, the first hadith of what I just said, he said is munkar, that the hadith is munkar. He said just as Abu Hatim al-Razi had mentioned, rahimahullah, because it opposes the authentic narrations. So min fawaid al-ahadith, and also from what's extracted from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, أن الأخلاق والدين مقدمة على غيرها لأن أسامة أقوى وأنفع بالنسبة لهذه المرأة من معاوية ومن أبي جهم. From the benefits of the narration that he says akhlaq, exemplary manners and behavior and morals and character and religion takes precedence over other than that, over other than it. Because Usama was stronger, he was more beneficial in regards to this woman who's Fatima bint Qais, more than Muawiyah or Abi Jahm. Right, everyone? Also from the benefit of the hadith, as one might think, as we talked about before, we spoke about this in previous classes. We know that it's not permissible to what? It's not permissible for a man. Others are here. What was I saying? Hold on for a second, everybody. What was I saying again? I'm sorry. What was it? Oh, no. We know the narration of the Prophet ﷺ that it's not permissible for two men or for a man, once a woman has been engaged, as far as in marriage, as far as she's makhtuba, that she's been proposed by a man, or a man offers his proposal in marriage. Once that proposal now has started, we know the narration of the Prophet ﷺ, if you look in your books, it's still in this people dealing with people, man. I'll just say never mind. Never mind. I'll just get it myself. I'm in the middle of like if a man was to give a khutbah, have a marital, if he proposed in marriage, if he already proposed in marriage to a man, and the woman is already engaged, as we know, it's not permissible for a mother man to give a proposal over his. Once the marriage starts, and the intention of the marriage is now more than likely is going to take place, then it's not permissible, like we said, it is not permissible for one now to come and give that proposal over his. We know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ which says, where the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَا يَخْطِبْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى خِطْبَةِ أَخِيهِ. Do not let one of you propose over the khitbah or the proposal of his brother. The Prophet ﷺ gave this advice in order for preservation of the unity of the Muslims. Because these are the things that causes, as we know, dissension, and it breaks up the brotherhood. Especially when it comes to money, wealth, and women. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, do not let one of you propose over the proposal of his what? Of his mother. Of his brother. So based upon that, what is this hadith here? One would think that there's some type of what? Contradiction. Because if you notice in the narration, it says Muawiyah and Abu Jahm sought Fatima bint Qais hand in marriage at the same time. So one would think that there's some type of what? Contradiction. In actuality, there isn't. There isn't a contradiction. Based upon the fact that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, where he said this, you'll find that Ahl Ilm mentioned that they say in regards to the narration about one proposing over the proposal of his brother, that's if he knows. For example, the one, he goes to the family and he asks so-and-so, or goes to the father or to the brother or what have you, over the one who's in charge over the affairs of the woman. They say, I would like to marry so-and-so, I would marry your sister or marry whoever. Or your daughter, I would like to marry your daughter, take her hand in marriage, what have you. But the man would say automatically, she's engaged. So at that point is what? Khalas, the door's shut. Right, everyone? The door is what? Shut. Jayid? So here in this instance, for a man to keep proposing now, he will be what? Transgressing now. We're trying to do something what? Something conniving and something he should not be doing. Now he's transgressing the bounds. When he's persistent, well, yeah, I know she's engaged, but, I think I'm a better person for her. I think that, and then now he has, his nasiha is not nasiha, his is an ulterior motive now. His is that he has something in his heart where it's not sincere, where, for example, he'll say, well, I don't think that he's a good brother for her because I seen him with some girls the other night, to the end of it. Now here it's not sincere, his advice. Here is something behind it. Once a person starts to do that, then what? He's transgressed. However, in the hadith of Fatima bint Qais here, when Muawiyah and Abu Jahm came to proposal of Fatima bint Qais, what happened here in this instance, the one did not know the other was proposing. He didn't know. He had just so happened to propose to her, and the other likewise at another time what? Proposed. So one didn't know the other had proposed. One didn't know. So in that instance here, one is what? Excused. Not blameworthy because the other one didn't know. Because one would think that in the hadith, how is it that both of them proposed to her, even though the Messenger of Allah prohibited that one not propose to a woman over the proposal of his brother? Here in this instance, as Ibn Uthaymin even mentions, it says here, what does he say? He says, أنه لا حرج في الخطبة على خطبة الرجل إذا لم يعلم الخاطب. He said there's no problem with proposal, over the proposal of the another man, if the one, of course, didn't know. The khatib, or the one who gave the proposal, he had no knowledge of it. Just came and said, listen, I would like to propose to so-and-so. He talks to the father, the brother, what have you. He says, لِأَنَّ هَؤُلَا ثَلَاثَ. He said, because these three in the hadith, who's Abu Jahm, Muawiyah, and Usama, you saw all of them did propose to her. All three. Usama bin Zayd, Abu Jahm, and Muawiyah. Muawiyah, radiyallahu anhu abdah. He says, and the Prophet ﷺ he didn't say to her, Inkihi al-Khatib al-Awwal. He didn't say marry the first one who proposed to you. لأن الخاطبين الاثنين قد اعتديا على حقه. لأن الخاطبين الاثنين قد اعتديا على حقه. بل جعل الأمر سواء. Messenger of Allah ﷺ knew that the other did not know about the other. They didn't know. Each one did not know that the other had proposed. None of them knew. They had no knowledge of it. So none of them were blameworthy in this instance. You understand, everyone? We'll stop here, inshallah. We'll stop here. What time is it? We'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم بارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. The 6 forms of permissible, it's not permissible backbiting, we call it advice. No permissible backbiting. We call it advice. Advice. There's switches from backbiting to advice. 6 places, and number 1 is mutadhallim. Mutadhallim is a mushtaki, one who complains and wants an oppression removed from them. It's a person who not complains, but they put forth a complaint because they're being oppressed. That's number 1. So a person might say something about their husband or about their wife for a person who can remove it. Meaning, if we was in a Muslim country, then they would take it to the judge, of course. For example, in a Muslim country, my husband doesn't want to let me out the marriage, even though he hits me and I'm not comfortable. Or he doesn't spend on me. For example, he might say he doesn't take care of me, doesn't spend on me, and fulfills responsibilities. That, when she makes that statement, you would say based upon that, that's a type of what? Backbiting. But it's not. She's trying to get some oppression raised off of her. So she goes to the judge and says that in order for that oppression to be what? Removed. Or she wants to go maybe to a scholar or someone of knowledge to seek advice that so-and-so does this. What do you think about this? Or so-and-so does this. What do I do? How do I conduct myself? What do I do? So she might disclose something of privacy in order to have an oppression or something of an endeavor change or a situation change. So what have you? So that's the first. There's number 1. Number 2. متظلم ومعرف محذر. Mu'arraf is you want to know who a person is. Mu'arraf. Mu'arraf is when a person, you want to know who he is. He's not known. He's majhul. He's not known who he is, so you want to know what is his state, who is the person, what is his religion, what is he upon, does he have good dealings, does he have good character, to the end of it. Number 3 is the one who's being warned against. A person is being warned against. And we know that there's certain instances that does require that certain people be warned against. Whether it be from the people of innovations, whether it be from people who are liars, whether it be from people who are kleptomaniacs, who have sicknesses, who can harm you. So one will mention a certain thing, or a person, for example, that might be practicing magic, and you have evidences clear as the sun in the sky that he's doing these acts, then they could be warned against. And if you see somebody from the community starting to involve themselves in dealing with them, then you warn against them. So it's permissible. So here, it's not backbiting. It's considered what? Advice. Where are you warned against the person? So it's متظلم معرف محذر ومجاهر فسق. 4th place is one who broadcasts his sins, the one who's mujahid bifisqih, one who broadcasts his sins. The origin of from our religion, you see how perfect and everything is in its proper place. Is our person is supposed to conceal his sin. We're not like Christians and Catholics where we confess our sins to the priest or we confess our sins to a human being. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows what you did. He already knows. So you make repentance to your Lord, and that's enough. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows what you did. That's enough. However, people think that it's from taqwa. You'll find that shaitan switches upon a person and they might have some remorse, so they'll start to broadcast it. You'll start to spread it to people. And we know that that's not from the correct methodology in regards to one committing sins. Also, likewise, the origin is to what? Keep it concealed. You all right about it? Is to conceal your sins. And on top of that, not to do it openly is another matter. Not to do it, if you've been tested, if Allah tests you with certain sins, not to do it openly in front of the people. That's another thing. Why? Because broadcasting your sins, you'll fall into the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he mentioned and said, كل أمتي معاف إلا المجاهدين وإن من المجاهرة أن الرجل يذنب بالليل وقد ستره الله عنه فيقول يا فلان فعلت البارحة وفعلت الليل كذا وكذا وقد بات وقد ستره ربه ثم يصبح يكشف ستر الله عنه, as it says in the narration. The Prophet ﷺ said that for all my ummah will be forgiven except those who broadcast their sins. It's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, كل أمتي معافا إلا المجاهدين. All of my ummah will be forgiven except those who broadcast their sins. They'll be overlooked. And then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had mentioned and said, وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْمُجَاهَرَةِ أَن يَعْمَلْ الرَّجُلُ عَمَلَ بِاللَّيْلِ, that a person or a man would do something at night and Allah covered his sin up. But it did something he shouldn't have been doing, and Allah, it was between him and his Lord, Allah covered it up for him. He says, then the person would say, he would go to an individual and say, Ya fulan, fa'idtu kada wa kada. Oh, so-and-so, I did such and such night. He says, وَقَدْ بَاتَ يَسْتُرُهُ رَبُّهُ. And he came upon the night, his Lord was covering him up. ثُمَّ يُصْبِحُ يَكْشِفُ سِتْرَ اللَّهِ عَنْهُ. Then he comes upon the morning, and he removes the covering of Allah upon himself. So the origin is that one what? Keeps his sin concealed. Not to say to anyone, not to even do it in front of the people likewise. If you've been tested with a sin, if Allah tests you, and you're weak in certain affairs or certain matters of your religion, not to broadcast it. And this is a tremendous hadith, which is to teach us, it's a shame to show how the shyness of people has gone away, even though Allah might cover your sin up, and you still broadcast it anyway. For example, you go on Facebook, some brothers, and they'll have their girlfriend right next to them, partying and dancing with them. Partying and dancing with them, and moving around with them, and engaging with them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covered up your sin. Now you're broadcasting it on Facebook. And that was so bad about it, you'll find that Ahl Ilm say that when a person broadcasts his sin, number one, the danger of it is as if you're calling to it. Number two, it shows that you're losing the shyness to the point where it's becoming tremendous with Allah now. Like you don't even care now. And we know that the meaning of it is every time the sin becomes less in your eyes, it's becoming greater with what? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time sin now becomes less in your eyes, like I don't even care. Alhamdulillah, not only I'm going to care, I'm going to brag about it too. Shyness, really in his mind, he's thinking, what am I doing wrong? Can you Muslim? What's up with the media? Because now the sin is bad of him. That's the reason why Imam Nawawi. So now the person who backbited, he say something about him. Then what? So they'll say, look at so and so. Well, he does this. So and so does that. So I look and think that that's from the religion. This is correctly backbiting for them. You understand, everyone? That right, everyone? We're supposed to fear Allah. Not especially don't brag up. It's becoming more widespread. People will feel the repercussions of it later. The one who's mustaftin is the one. So a person can read something of his affair. a person, he seeks help or seeks aid in order to have so-and-so or so-and-so, has no characteristics. Belief remains intact. Those are more sacred, the most sacred of all those, because what makes you as a Muslim and that will benefit you on the day you die, the first that benefits you is your belief. That's it. Your actions as far as your righteous, you're not going to make direction. That's your as a Muslim in this dunya, looking out against what? Those deviations. From the Khawarij or from the Aqidah, that's your first ticket of hajjs after that. 6.